up, guys? Brandon here from Big McLarge Gaming, and today I'm putting a spotlight on one of my favorite fan games in the entire world. This is Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit. Now, I know what you're thinking. Most fan games, be they Sonic or otherwise, usually aren't that good, and they certainly don't reach the quality of the actual games that get made. But let me tell you, this one is definitely different. This game is, like, basically almost as good as, like, Sonic 3 and Sonic Mania, and that's, you know, high praise coming from me. This game acts as a sequel to Sonic 3 in some ways. It's a direct sequel that happens right after, you know, Angel Island rises up, and Sonic and Tails go chasing after Eggman to see, you know, just what's down with him after the whole Death Egg fiasco just a little bit ago. Now, this game actually has a very cinematic quality to it, and I seriously love that about it. This game is based off of a Game Gear game, of course, and that means it does still have a fairly short length, especially when compared to, like, 3 or Mania or something. But the real special thing about this game, aside from the fact that it freezes pretty often on my computer like that, is the fact that this game can actually run on a Sega Genesis. This game is completely made within the confines of Genesis hardware, and that is the crazy thing that makes me wonder why my computer can't run this as well as it really should. I think it ran the original release fine, and it was one of the updates that did it. The game just periodically freezes a bit. Triple Trouble, even the handheld version, is one of my favorite games, just for the ambition that it puts. Sorry, not favorite games, favorite Sonic games. If I had to pick a favorite handheld one, it would probably not be Triple Trouble for obvious reasons. It's still an 8-bit Game Gear game, but the ambition it had in having, like, 3 villains and this cinematic thing, it really was like the Sonic 3 and Knuckles of the whole, like, you know, Game Gear Sonic games, and so seeing it in, like, a Genesis format is just really special to me. Now, this game takes basically all of its physics from Sonic 3. They're about as one-to-one as you could get, honestly. It does have the strike dash from Triple Trouble, which is basically the super peel-out, except it has the qualities of a spin dash, which does make you wonder why they put that in there, seeing as it's quite literally the exact same, except, you're not curled into a ball. There's, like, literally no downside. The super peel-out does have the downside of you can actually get hit from it, but this one, no, not really. It's just sort of, you know, it's just a spin dash. But yeah, this game, as much as I would love for it to just be, like, touched up a little and then officially released, I think it's actually kind of better the way it is, just being this thing, because I feel like, you know, Sega has a terrible track record with releasing ports of any kind, really, and honestly, I think Takashi Iizuka understands that. Now, the special stages in this game, let me tell you guys, these are great. They are quite easy. I beat most of them on my first try, but they are still cool. The 3D effect is super reminiscent of how, like, you know, Sonic 2 and 3 did their, you know, faux 3D special stage effects. Except this time, it's actually much easier, especially much easier than Sonic 2. This is essentially what I wish Sonic 2s were a little more like, because while with the Christian Whitehead ports, the Sonic 2 special stages are actually, like, okay. Well, let me tell you, they're still not exactly fair or all that fun to really play through. This, however, still is actually, you know, aside from the hitbox on the tornado, which is super wacky, I do not understand why that is the way it is. Seriously, guys, it's very confusing. But yeah, this is how you get the Chaos Emeralds. There are only 5 to collect in this game, because Eggman has 1, and, wait. No, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. I'm thinking of the original, where you had to collect 5. In this one, you collect 6, actually. Now, this actually does have the mini-boss format like Sonic 3 and Sonic Mania, so at the end of every stage, you'll fight a boss, except for a couple of them where things are a little different. Most of the Fang bosses are super easy, barely an inconvenience, but you know, they're still fun, especially because, you know, in the original Triple Trouble, one of the problems is, you know, you never really feel like there's triple trouble because one or more, like, either one, Eggman doesn't show up until, like, Atomic Destroyer in Triple Trouble, right? And Fang is only really in the special stages. Meanwhile, Knuckles is essentially just there to... Knuckles is essentially just there to start forest fires, which serve as the level transitions for the majority of the levels. Here, though, Fang and Knuckles both get boss fights. Eggman still doesn't appear until the end, but that's a little more acceptable when Knuckles actually gets boss fights. Especially because in the original Triple Trouble 16-bit, you know, you aren't getting boss fights at the end of every single act, you know, you aren't... you're hitting goalposts most of the time, except for the final bosses of each zone, which are, of course, oops, oh, that was close. Except for the ones at the end of each zone, which, of course, are going to be, you know, mostly badniks, I believe, super badniks, except for in Tidal Plant, where the final boss is Knuckles. Of course, if you've played Triple Trouble or you've played this Triple Trouble, you'll know that the Knuckles who you fight in the game is you know, Metal Sonic the whole time. That is actually an interesting thing. That is implied in the original game, but it is also just not explicitly shown, which is low-key kind of weird. It really should be. It just isn't. Anyway, you guys will have to give me feedback on how this whole format works out, because this is honestly my first time actually trying to record like a legitimate Let's Play, like PC style with OBS and stuff, and I'm gonna be real with you guys, it took me like, I don't even want to think about how many hours it took me to set this up. I think I started working on this around like 6:50. It's like past 9:30 now when I'm recording this. It has been a long time of work for trying to get this all working. In fact, you know, I was actually thinking about like buying Baldi's Basics to be the first one, the first Let's Play, because I've never played that, but I thought it would be funny, and you know, I might still do that in the near future. Actually, you'll have to tell me if the monitor is reflecting super huge on my face is at all distracting or anything. In the comments, please do that. Anyway, this is actually a really cool thing with a lot of the bosses in Triple Trouble. They have really neat little like subversions where, you know, that was part of the original boss, and then you get just this huge, like, more appropriate 16-bit reintroduction. Now, this boss actually is the introduction to a really neat mechanic that Triple Trouble is unique in having, where you can actually recurl into a ball after the you know, bouncing off of a spring. That was actually a feature in the Game Gear original because, well, the screen was crunched to hell and back, so you couldn't actually see what you were doing. It was more of a compromise of, like, if you put that into Sonic 3 or Sonic 2, it would kind of be too powerful. But for the way this game was initially released, it totally makes sense. Now, again, cool level transition, and I'll be honest, Triple Trouble 16-bit made this, Sunset Park, one of my favorite zones in, like, history, which is, of course, silly because it really isn't all that special in the original. Now, it still is the best zone, but, you know, best zone is... that's not a title that's hard to gain, because while Triple Trouble 16-bit is the only Game Gear Sonic game I would argue is actually designed like a 16-bit Sonic game, it still has a lot of the 8-bit design flaws that really bog it down for me. And I should know, I have actually played every single Sonic Game Gear game to completion, with the exception of Sonic Blast, which I really shouldn't take as a stain on my record, because it's goddamn Sonic Blast, guys. Who gives a fuck if I play that one? But yeah, I played 8-bit Sonic 1, 8-bit Sonic 2, Sonic Chaos, Tails Sky Patrol. I did try to play Tails Adventure. I gave up on that one, not because of, like, difficulty or anything, but because I literally could not figure out how to work the controls, and by that point, I had played so many of them. I played through, I believe, most of Labyrinth, and I have played all the tracks in Sonic Drift 1 and 2. And I can tell you, Sonic Drift and Sonic R are not that different in quality level, which is really more of a detriment to Sonic R because no one expects Sonic Drift to be good. This level is just really cool. The sunset in the background, just the whole aesthetic, kind of the oceanic, like, construction site. It's something that the original game doesn't really capture, and I think there's just a lot of respect to Noah Copeland for being able to create something like this. I'll admit, I was a little sad when he said he wasn't going to make, like, another Sonic fan game, but again, this man is a really... God damn it. A really talented game developer, and, you know, I get not wanting to spend your whole life developing, Sonic fan games. I mean, I have always wanted to develop Sonic fan games myself, but, you know, I haven't really been in the... Oh. Hold on. He's coming. There he is. It's Knuckles. I haven't really... You know, I have a lot of ideas for Sonic fan games, ultimately, but let me tell you, it is a lot harder to try and develop really anything. And I should know, I actually tried to be a game developer for a while. I bought Game Maker Studio, and I was trying to make a game similar in concept to Undertale. Not in, like, battle system or anything, but, like, art style and tone and being a top-down RPG. You know, that sort of stuff. And so I do have some experience with the beginnings of game design, and my god, is it difficult. It is a pain I really wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. The people who do that are truly blessed. And, you know, I say this as someone who has, like, written full-length, like, novels before, and I think, you know, game development, especially singularly, is just really hard. Now that I'm thinking about it, the way I said that made me almost think like people actually think that writing a novel is harder than game development, but I think most people are not stupid in that regard. Anyway, yeah, Sunset Park Act 2, this is probably the first zone in the game you could say is the most original. I think its music is the first, like, true departure from what the original game did, and you'll see the second half of the... Sorry guys, my game freezes up sometimes. You'll see in the second half of the level the artistic shift that absolutely was not done on the Sega Game Gear, which, fun fact, required 6 AA batteries to run for 2 hours. And, you know, you wonder why Sega fell out of the console market. You know, I do actually have a theory about that. Obviously, I think that Sonic Extreme, as we have seen it in promotional material, would have sucked ass, but the original game that was being developed on the Knights engine, now that could have actually been something real special. But there's also this thing, Yuji Naka is like one of the worst people ever, and I'm not really exaggerating about that. Yuji Naka sucks. He is like, there's a reason that guy is in prison right now. He's kind of the worst. You know, he wasn't exactly a nice guy even to his own development team, but God forbid you were on a different development team. And for some reason, Yuji Naka also had a bit of a vendetta against being tied to Sonic. Now, I think it's fair to say that he, you know, he deserves to be able to do something that isn't just Sonic the Hedgehog. You know, sometimes if you're the creator of something iconic, you get locked into just being the creator of that. Like, you know, I'm sure, like, Shigeru Miyamoto, well, okay, that's not true. Shigeru Miyamoto is known for making, like, 5 different iconic series. He's a bit of a special case. Let's go with, Hironobu Sakaguchi, right? He's basically only known for creating Final Fantasy. And, you know, fair enough, Final Fantasy is, like, a huge deal, but, like, it's not really that fair to then, to basically just say, like, oh, well, he created Final Fantasy, therefore, you know, he, basically only gets recognized for that one achievement. I think that's sort of, you know, that's sort of like me getting recognized for making one video that somehow hit 30,000 views instead of any of, like, the actually high-quality stuff I've put out on this channel over the years. Now, anyway, we're gonna end it after, Sunset Park Act 3 here, because this act is really cool, and if you want to go play this and experience more of this game yourself, you can do that. After all, a spotlight really shouldn't show you more than like the first 2 parts of a game, and you know, we're about at that ending point. Now, this act was actually in the original game, which is cool to have it come back, but obviously it's been greatly expanded. The original basically only had this beginning section where you hit down the enemies and then jumped over the little gaps, you know, but the actual train part that's coming up right now, this is all brand new, which, you know, very cool. I like that it's brand new. Hey hee hee. I'm so sorry. I'm quite tired. I don't know what I'm doing. Truth be told, I didn't even just spend a bunch of time trying to set up this this OBS stuff happening again. A bunch of time setting up this OBS stuff tonight. But in the afternoon, I was also store hunting for some other materials. My computer doesn't have an SD card reader for some reason, like it has no slot for that. So I had to go and buy one, which a lot harder to find than you would expect. I also bought the soon-to-be iconic whiteboard, which is... I think I'm releasing that video before this one. Yeah, I'm giving you a little bit of behind the scenes. I actually make a lot of videos at the same time because most of my videos are, you know, if you watch them, pretty low quality. That is by design, because making super high quality videos, like, severely burnt me out. That's why I disappeared without explanation for 3 straight years. The latest 5-month gap wasn't, that didn't have anything to do with burnout. I was just, really, really busy for a long time. You know, last summer of my life and all. I was totally doing stuff. But no, in all seriousness, I did actually have stuff going on, and then by the time I actually got around to starting to edit, the Evil CEO video, it was already, you know, it was already, oh, what's it what's it called, the start of the college semester, and so I had to deal with getting used to that. You know, maybe I'll make a video just ranting about that. Anyway, this level has like just pure aura, just so much aura. I really don't know how else to describe it. However, this boss is too easy. I think that's one of the things with this game, actually, is that the bosses and the game itself, for the most part, is actually a little too easy. But then the parts where it isn't easy are a little on the cheap side. But, yeah, so that was the first two zones of Triple Trouble 16-bit. This game holds a very special place in my heart. It was one of the first fan games I followed from, like, conception to completion, and I hope you guys will check it out if you're interested at all in platformers. Knuckles? What the hell?